One of the most significant changes that you can make in your Google Ads campaign is to add in a maximize conversions or a maximize conversion values bidding strategy. When this is done right, it can really skyrocket your results, sending in loads of extra revenue and conversions to your business. But unfortunately, when it is not done in the right way, it's the complete opposite. You can have an incoming storm of rising CPC costs with no more conversions. In this video, I want to break down when it is the right time to introduce a maximize conversions or a maximize conversion value bidding strategy to your Google Ads campaign. And to make it as practical as possible, I'm going to give you the 5 guidelines that you need to follow so that you can have confidence and know that it is the right time or the wrong time to introduce that strategy. Now, one little side note before we get into the teaching, in this video, if I just say maximize conversions, I want you to understand I'm referring to both a maximize conversions or a maximize conversion value bidding strategy. It just saves me having to say those extra words as we go through this video. All right, number 1, when it comes to thinking about adding in a maximize conversions bidding strategy, I want you to not be in a rush. Unfortunately, the biggest and most common mistake that I see when it comes to adding in a maximize conversion bidding strategy is that the user just added it too early. I do understand why this happens because Google really does put the pressure on you. As soon as you get that first conversion come through, you get extra recommendations. Every time you're in Google Ads, you're getting the recommendation pop up. You then get your Google rep calling you saying that you need to add in maximize conversions. But unfortunately, this is too often a sad case of Google Ads skyrocketing in its costs without you seeing any extra benefits. So the first thing that I would say is that do not be in a rush. To help you with some context, when it comes to starting a new Google Ads campaign, very rarely will I introduce a maximize conversions bidding strategy for the first 6 months. Now that'll become a lot clearer as we go through the next steps, but as a starting point, I wanted to make it really clear to not be in a rush, because the worst thing that you can do is add in one of these strategies too early into the life of your campaign. The other thing that I would say on this first point as well is that if you're unsure, just wait. If you want to give yourself an extra couple of weeks or even an extra couple of months before you're really sure, there is nothing wrong with that at all. Number 2, before you make that decision to introduce maximize conversion bidding strategy, I want you to look at data trends over the previous 90, 60, and 30 days. What you want to do here is you really want to break down to see that if your campaign has got the recent performance to really back up you adding in this maximize conversions bidding strategy. Now, when it comes to conversion data in Google Ads, it does reach back 90 days, but the last 30 days are the most important. But for me, what I also want to be checking here is I really want to be looking at the history of our account, because if you add in a maximize conversion bidding strategy, especially with a target ROAS or a target CPA, you can actually stunt and limit the growth of your account. So there's 2 main things I want to be looking at here. Firstly, are our conversions stable every month? And when I mean stable, that they're not changing or growing by about 20%. So if you've got in a campaign and you're considering adding in a maximize conversions, and over the last 3 months, you've gone from 30 conversions up to 60 conversions, up to 100 conversions, for me, I wouldn't be changing anything with the bidding strategy at that moment because we're just on such an upward trend. Whereas if you've got another campaign and it's gone from 50 conversions to 55 conversions to 58 conversions, so it's fairly stable and all staying in that sort of 10 to 20% range, I would then go, yes, that is a good campaign which is ready to have a maximize conversions bidding strategy introduced. And then the other little note that I do want to make there is that you would want to be seeing at least 30 conversions a month. So even if those conversions are stable, but they're around about 5 to 10 sort of conversions or even 20 conversions a month, that's not really enough data in order to introduce that maximize conversions bidding strategy. Because what you want to remember here is that when you're adding in a maximize conversions bidding strategy, you're really leaning in on the conversion data that you've got in your account. Google takes that data to really target and pinpoint the best days, the best hour of the day, the best keywords, the best audiences, which are going to get you those more conversions. And we've really found in practical experience that where it sits right now is that you really need about 30 conversions a month flowing through. When you couple that with that first point where I'm kind of waiting for about 3 months of fairly stable data, you can sort of see here that I like to have more data than less data. So I've got at least sort of 90 conversions working in my account, and that gives me the confidence that this maximize conversions is going to be positive for my Google Ads campaign. Now it comes to point number 3, and this is more about setting a target ROAS or a target CPA. With both of these conversion-based bidding strategies, so maximize conversions and maximize conversion value, you have the option to also add a target. So target ROAS for maximize conversion value and target CPA for maximize conversions. A big common problem that I see here is that people make the target based off the results they want to see, not what they're currently seeing. Let me give you an example. In your business, if you've got a goal of getting your cost per conversion down to $30, but your current actual cost per conversion is at $50, the worst thing that you could do is to set that target CPA at $30. What you would do from there is that you would start your target CPA between $50 to $60. Then when you're seeing 4 weeks of conversions sitting in that $40 to $50 bracket, I would bring my target CPA down to $50. Then when you see another 4 weeks of the cost per conversion between $30 to $40, I'd bring that CPA goal down to $40, and you can see how the process is going. What I want you to think about is it's kind of like the steps of a ladder. For target ROAS, you're stepping the ladder up. For target CPA, you're stepping that ladder down. Doing it in increments rather than in one big foul swoop. Now we come to the fourth guideline, which is simply set and stick. And what I mean by that is that once you've made a change to introduce a maximized conversion bidding strategy or adjusted your target goal, you need to resist the temptation of changing that in the next week or two. And in fact, I wouldn't make any changes for a good 4 weeks. And the reason for that, especially when you first introduce a maximized conversion bidding strategy, it's highly likely that results will actually dip for the next 2 weeks before they improve. It's quite complicated as to why this is happening, but an easy way to explain this is that you need to remember that when it comes to Google Ads budgets, while the budget is entered into Google Ads on a daily amount, Google actually takes that daily budget, multiplies it by 30.4 to work out your monthly budget. So when you go through and introduce a significant change, like introducing a maximized conversion bidding strategy, Google then goes through and recalculates that monthly budget so they can actually better spend that money in order to give you the best results. And one of the scenarios that can happen is that Google may work out that it can get more conversions, but there might be a slightly longer acquisition window. So it's quite common when you do make a change like this that results can dip for a couple of weeks before they rebound and come back at a better result. The other thing that I do want to mention here as well is that when you do introduce this change, that you need to stop worrying about your CPC as much and more focus on your conversion metrics. So I'm not saying that CPC is not relevant anymore, but what I am saying is that your CPC as a byproduct may increase, which does make sense because if your converting traffic is more expensive, it is going to cost a little bit more. But really for you now, when you're playing in a maximized conversions or maximized conversion strategy, what you're really looking at is the conversion metrics as opposed to just your CPC. So the biggest thing you want to avoid there is changing from maximized conversions back to maximized clicks and then adjusting your target ROAS every other week. As a rule, once you've introduced a maximized conversion bidding strategy, I want you to wait a month and then you can look to adjust it every sort of 30 to 60 days depending on the results and the data that you're seeing. Before we get into this final point, one thing I do want to also let you know is that I've got an extended teaching on this whole bidding strategies and how to set them right and how to adjust them. That training was released in my paid community, and if you would like to get a free trial so you can access that training on the community, I want you to follow that link in the description below. And that brings us to point number 5, which is all about don't change your budgets and your bidding targets at the same time. What you want to understand here is that increasing your budget increases the volume of your campaigns, whereas adding in a bidding strategy or adjusting your target is more about increasing the profitability. And those two things are really hard to do at the same time. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is hard to achieve. So what you really want to be going through over a year-long life cycle of your account, generally what I do is I look at going through a 3-month period where I want to increase the volume, and that's where I increase my budgets. And then I come back and really look at focusing on increasing my profitability, adding in bidding strategies, adjusting my targets to increase that profitability, then we go on growth again. So it's kind of like you're increasing the volume, then increasing your profitability, then increasing that volume again. Thank you for joining me. My name is Aaron Young and I'm from Define Digital Academy. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here. And remember, if you wanted to see that full training on bidding strategies, just follow that link in the description below. And finally, if you'd also like to see the current updates, which is happening in Google Ads right now, I want you to go through and watch this video right here. See you next time.